Welcome to Things We Imagine, the series all about filling your BIPOC fantasy index. I'm Portia.
And I'm Bayana. Today we're speaking with summer and fall 2021 debut romance, fantasy, and thriller authors Sarah Das, Farida Abike-Iyamide, Shauna Miles, and Veronica Henry about their writing inspirations and aspirations.
Thank you for joining us today. Would you mind starting us off with sharing your name and a brief summary for your debut novel? Sarah, if you wouldn't mind, could you start us off?
Sure, of course. My name is Sarah Das, author of Where the Rhythm Takes You. It's a young adult contemporary retelling of Jane Austen's Persuasion, and it's set in Tobago. And in the novel, 17-year-old Raina gets her second chance and first love when her ex-boyfriend returns after a couple years abroad, during which he's become a famous musician. And now he's back and he's staying at the seaside resort that Raina's family owns. The book, and of course, old feelings reignite. The book is now out in the US and Canada, and it'll be out in the UK on June 10th.
Hi, I'm Farida Abike-Iyamide, and my book is Ace of Spades, which is a YA thriller that can be pitched as Get Out meets Gossip Girl, and it follows Devon and Chiamaka in their final year of high school when an anonymous texter starts to spread their secrets around the entire school, and they have to kind of come together before it gets very deadly and serious. And it comes out June 1st in the US and June 10th in the UK.
I am Veronica G. Henry, and I am the author of Bacchanal. Bacchanal is the story of a young woman coming to terms with a family that abandoned her and also her frustrating, unpredictable new magical gift. She finds reprieve, though, when she joins a traveling carnival, in part to get away from her current circumstances and also in part to maybe help find her lost family. She finds herself amongst the unusual cast of characters and kind of settles into what she might consider home. Only she finds that this carnival is powered by an ancient evil. That evil feeds on some innocent souls, and she must use her abilities to stop it. Bacchanal, again, will be released on June 1st.
My name is Shauna Miles, and I am the author of For All Time. It is a multi-genre YA fantasy romance. It follows Tamar and Fayard. Together, Tamar and Fayard have lived 1,000 lives, seen the world build itself up from nothing, only to tear itself down again in civil war. They've even watched humanity take to the stars. But in each life, one thing remains the same: their love and their fight to be together, one love story after another. Their only concern is they never get to see how their story ends until now, when they finally discover what it will take to break the cycle. Will they be able to make the sacrifice? It comes out September 28th of this year.
I feel like every single one, I was just like, oh God, so many things of what I love and all very different. And I'm so excited. Can y'all share with us what some of your inspirations were for your story that's coming out now, and then kind of generally in your writing? Can we start with Farida?
So I'm obsessed with Gossip Girl, and I watched it a few years ago for the first time, and I was just obsessed with the idea of Black Blair Waldorf, and I really wanted to write a story that was fun and teen drama but centering Black kids, but also I wanted it to kind of be deeper than that and to have some sort of commentary and be thrilling. I grew up with a lot of Nigerian folklore, so that's really dark and thrilling, so it's all I've always loved in storytelling, so that's kind of my inspiration.
Awesome. Veronica, how about you?
Inspiration comes from so many places, but for me, started with Ray Bradbury's Something Wicked This Way Comes. So I was on, I've lost count of the reread of that book, and I was reading it, and it just kind of struck me what that story would look like, told in a different setting and told from a Black perspective. So that's kind of where the seed started. And there's so many other influences, as Farida just mentioned. Nigerian folklore plays heavily into it, and I've read a lot of that. Just both nonfiction and fiction. So combining those two things kind of is what led me to this novel.
Awesome. Shauna, what about you?
Well, I was really couple of years ago, I was really into some historical fiction romance, and I was reading a lot of Beverly Jenkins. And I wanted to write something that, allowed me to dig into some history. So I did write a YA fantasy romance about Ellen and Henry Craft, who made their way to Philadelphia from South Carolina by her posing as a young planter and him as her servant. And after that, I was like, well, what other eras could I possibly, place some YA characters in? And I was just kind of playing out with different eras. And then I was playing them out with the same two characters. And then after I did that, I was like, okay, well, what if we put all of these together into one book? And it kind of like coalesced in that way.
I love that. Sarah, how about you?
So for my book, it is a retelling, so I have to give Miss Austen her due. It was inspired by the story of Persuasion. Setting wise, it pulls a lot from my own childhood growing up in Tobago in a seaside resort. And yeah, it's just from a lifetime of reading, young adult contemporary romance novels and really wanting to set one in my home country. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you all for that. And I think that a lot of times whenever we hear about the writing process from different authors, especially writers of color, it's really interesting hearing how they like ground a lot of their story in real world things. And sometimes like when you're looking at like Black lives in particular, some of those real world things can be kind of like sad and kind of depressing. But I would love to hear about what brought you joy as you were writing, and especially like in these different like locales, because I know especially particularly for Veronica's setting, it's Dust Bowl in the US, and we did pick up some parts where they do like end up in like Oklahoma, and that's only like 10 years removed from the Tulsa Massacre. So if you wouldn't mind just telling us a bit about like what brought you joy as you were writing the stories, and could we start with you, Veronica?
Sure. For me, it's the characters in the setting. The setting that I chose was the 1930s because there was so much going on during this time, right? You have the Great Depression, you have the Dust Bowl, you have racial unrest, of course, in the US at least. And I wanted to explore those stories, but also think about the people who inhabited this space. One thing that I find very interesting about Black people in general, no matter where they are in the diaspora, is even in the times of just challenges that we have, we find a way to have joy no matter what. I was looking at some vintage photographs in the US of people who were living during a time where there wasn't a lot of money, perhaps there wasn't a lot of food, but I still saw smiles on their faces. And I thought, even in the midst of all of that, we find joy. So for me, it was exploring the characters who lived in these settings, even in the most challenging of circumstances, how their friendships, how their relationships, how their dreams still manifest. And that's partly what brought me joy.
Thanks. How about you, Shauna? You're talking about your characters going through different time periods, and they're both Black characters. So how did the joy manifest for you?
I think America deals in joy erasure for Black people, and it's partly, and maybe even across the diaspora, it's like that as well, where the fullness of our lives is erased, and all you get to see is the horror. So because we have not had, the opportunity to share our own stories and tell our own stories of us living full lives, it just seems like there's so much, horror out there. Of course, there are, terrible things that happen to Black people, but because we have not been able to get on a large platform and tell other things that are going on with us, it just seems like, there's nothing but despair and discrimination and, tragedy that befalls us. And it's just not true. We've always been, had babies and fallen in love and laughed and had our own comedy troupes and, sang our own songs and all of that. And I think, part of, me writing love stories is, like my own form of, revolution is like, okay, yeah, we existed in all of these different time periods. We didn't just pop up fully formed, after the Civil War. we were living in all spaces and places in America and in the world and doing all kinds of, fantastic and revolutionary things, but you just haven't heard those stories yet. And, I think all of us are, doing the work of replacing, the easy idea of us as suffering. And I think when you see all of that suffering, it also tells non-Black people, non-people of color, that somehow people of color deserve suffering. That's just their lot in life, when that's not true. If we have to give them that balance. So part of my work is that balance.
Thanks, Shauna. That's very revolutionary. You got me like, yes, right, Joy. And speaking of like writing love and love being revolutionary, there are some like joyful and like heartbreak moments in your book, Sarah, especially with like what the main character is going through, given like what happened to her mother, like losing her mother, and then like some turmoil she's having and like getting her life together. So what brought you joy when you were talking about her story and her pulling herself together?
Yeah, like Shanna, it was very much like just getting to write a story with two characters falling in love, and and having that be the story itself, the focus of it. Having Raina be a full person with flaws and like a complicated life, a complicated family, but ultimately having the overall book be joyful. I think even though it does touch on grief, it does overall. I feel like by the end of it, you're supposed to feel the love there. And yeah, I also found a lot of joy in sort of like inserting like little cultural things throughout the story, like songs from Trinidad and Tobago, or like talking about the instruments we use, like little dialogue, dialect stuff as well. So yeah, that was also a lot of fun for me.
And Farida, I know like your story's a thriller, and it's like you said, it's Gossip Girl meets like Get Out, but it's also like so much more. There's a lot of seeing one of the characters get to like be in his community, and like he finds joy, like love in a hopeless place kind of thing in a way, and other little like snatch of like happiness moments in your story as well. But when you were writing it, what were the joyful moments for you?
I think similar to everything that's been said, just like how getting to write like these fully formed characters. I think even when I travel to other places in the world, like when I went to New York, I noticed that the Black kids there, they were just as happy and joyful as the ones in London. And I think there's like a rhythm that all Black kids have where they're just, I don't know, themselves and just so happy and like playing with each other and everything. And just writing these like characters who, while everything's going on, they're like experiencing love for the first time and happiness. And it's like revolutionary to basically write these type of stories where you see Black people living full lives, because it's what we do anyway. Like we're just constantly living and being happy despite what's going on in the world to us, and all the systems against us. And so for me, it's literally just writing these characters and their friendships and everything. Like, even though my story is dark, I feel like I really wanted to emphasize just the characters and the hope that there is for a bright and happy future.
Awesome. So going off of that a little, I'm like I said already, like I'm really excited about all of your books for lots of different reasons. And I feel like it's really great to kind of see just like the different, like there's just like a breadth of like genre and like backgrounds, and like it's across the diaspora. So I would really love if you all could share a piece, like a little kind of sneak peek of your book, like a small snippet or line that you really love. Can we start with Shauna?
Okay, so This is at the end of, I think, like the chapter 3 or 4, and my book is in dual perspectives. So we have some chapters from Tamar and some chapters from Fayard, and they start in Columbia, South Carolina, my hometown in the present day. And Tamar is about to get on to a plane to fly away from Fayard forever, and he's come to kind of make a proposal. So it starts with her and her sister, but we don't see her yet. So Abita's her sister. Abita narrows her eyes and looks me up and down like she really is about to fight me. Then she lets out a big puff of air and dips back into the ladies' room. I turn to look at my band in their Eagle Pride t-shirts, eager and excited to help me with my grand gesture. At Javier, who can't stop winking at every girl who passes by. Am I doing this for her? I gently close the box and slide it back into my pocket. I turn to Javier. Proposals canceled.
Love that. Cool. Sarah, how about you?
Okay, sure. So I hope you guys already ate recently, because I'm gonna do a part with food. And this goes to how I talked about how I like inserting a lot of the cultural stuff into it. So we're at a party and they've got some food laid out, and I'm going to describe it. The food had been set out on sparkling silver platters, woven palm leaf placements, or freshly cut banana leaves. They offered spicy Jamaican patties, sticky guava pies, mini potato rotis, and slices of crisp watermelon and pineapple. Honey glazed barbecue shrimps had been skewered on thin wooden sticks. Saltfish cakes and balls of fried pylori were piled around bowls of tangy tamarind sauce. So that's just the layout of the food at the party.
I love that. I feel like I did eat before this, but I'm also like,
I want a sticky guava.
Yeah, it sounds so good. Farida, it's your turn.
So I'm reading from the last line in the entire book before the epilogue. And basically it's just about dreams. So yeah, I'm back in my room now, in my house. I close my eyes, pretending it's already the future, and I'm somewhere else living a completely different life. Dreaming is dangerous, but I allow myself to this time. I think we deserve a happy ending.
Love that. Just going back to the hope and joy part of it all. And last but not least, Veronica.
Okay, I'm reading from the prologue. And again, this novel is told from a few different perspectives as well. And the prologue is written from the perspective of Queenie, Madam Stephanie St. Clair of 1930s Harlem fame. There are those in this country who arrogantly suggest the old religion's dead, as if any amount of torture and erasing could sever those blood-deep ties. What do they think kept their chattel alive? Stephanie St. Clair's chuckle is as bitter as a centuries-old grudge. Even those lost lambs who don't recognize it practice it all the same. She calls it Yoruba. Other children of Africa label it Santeria, Candomblé, even Voodoo. Name doesn't matter though. They're all follicles from the same nappy head.
I'm also really curious about your more the process of your writing as opposed to the actual content. Could you share with us, I think we'll start with Sarah, a moment where a this is it moment for you, in the middle of your writing where you were this is what I'm supposed to be writing, or I'm just really excited to get this scene on the page. Can you start and share with us a moment like that for you?
It actually came with there's a particular scene in Where the Rhythm Takes You. It's near the end, so I don't want to spoil it, but I will say it's a part during a blackout, and the character's having a sort of introspective moment. And when I was writing it, I just ended up being really proud of how it came out. And that was when I was like, okay, I love this book. This book is I'm proud that this is the debut book that I have. Yeah.
Awesome. Farida, how about you?
For me, it was literally just the beginning because I spent a long time planning the book. I spent like a whole month like writing a 12,000 word document of how it was going to be. And I kind of had been feeling really down at the time because I was starting university for the first time and I had no friends and I couldn't really understand the new environment because I came from a very like my high school was majority Black. It was like 90% Black. And then I was in Scotland, which was now like all white. And so writing it and just like centering Black people again, it just felt right again. Like I felt like I was at home.
With that. Veronica, how about you?
There was a scene for me. My character Eliza struggles with her magical abilities. She just doesn't have control over it, so it's unpredictable. And there's a scene somewhere toward the middle, I think, where she is meeting with an African spirit, and that spirit walks her through the process of connecting with her past, with her African roots, and marrying those with her American roots. And she finally comes into her power. So that scene for me was a turning point because I had to write it, rewrite it, write it again, get notes from my agent, then write it again. And when it finally came together, I knew I had something.
Awesome. And Shauna.
Well, I actually want to. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to read you a little bit because
Okay.
it was one of the first scenes that I did, or one of the first eras, which is 1924 in Philadelphia. And once I read, and I, as the other authors know, like, what you first put down on the page is not necessarily what is going to end up, going out there. There's like revision, your beta readers, and then your agent, and then your editor going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But this particular section has not really changed from the first time that I wrote it. And after I wrote it, I was like, oh yes, this is what I really want to do. And it's Bayard in 1924, and it says, dawn is the best time for escapes. The smell of maple and pillow soft dough tickles my nose and coaxes me from sleep. Someone is making pancakes. Through the open window, the breeze brings mystery and the clang of the streetcar, the bubble of the working man's coffee pot. At dawn, you can blend in with the folk on their way to work. The hustlers are done for the night and the drunks are sleeping the drink off. The sun isn't really up yet, and if it is, it looks like a woman laughing. Her head turned up just enough that you can't see her face, like she's got a secret that's about to bubble right out of her. And I was like, oh, yes, I like it. Which, and it immediately follows by, this is trash, it's going in the dumpster. Writing is up and down like that.
Yeah, I think so going on this overall journey through your inspirations and then like what's keeping you going like as you're writing, it's been really good to like hear like what's been inspiring you and what's been moving you. For a lot of I know that not everyone here has written like a fantasy story here, but I feel like there's a level of fantasy to depicting like what we would like to see like happen and like what we've seen like interactions wise and like with Black folk and want to see better portrayed. So we would love to hear like if you've had like any aspects of fantasy like inspire you generally, like what's been a favorite or something that you recommend to other people, whether it's like a book or a movie, TV show, an album, a favorite music video, whatever. What are some of your favorite creative like fantasy favorites? And if you don't mind, Farida, would you give us some like at least 3 recommendations that you have in these different arenas?
3 recommendations. So I don't read fantasy often, but like when I do, and I really love it, like something I grew up with was Cassandra Clare's fantasy. And while that's not really about Black people, I just really loved the characterization and just like how much attention she paid to like developing characters and making things a bit humorous, even though they were like fighting demons. So I kind of applied that when I was like writing. I really like having a funny dynamic between the 2 characters. And other stuff as well, I guess like I like shows like Orphan Black. I think it's just so well written. And I really love the aesthetic of like TLC's 90s videos. I think they're just so cool and just like screams Black joy and just futuristic stuff. So yeah.
but also like safe sex because you have condoms on your eyeballs, and that's like a thing apparently. How about you, Veronica?
Inspirations. Neil Gaiman's a big one for me. American Gods was a book that certainly demonstrated some of the aspects that I think I included in my work, which was, having gods that are real, that interact with people on a day-to-day basis. And that also ties into a lot of African folklore. Then you have authors like Ben Okri and Helen Oyeyemi, who write kind of work that's would not necessarily be deemed fantasy, but I like how magic is part of the real world for their work as well. You see that in a lot of also Latin American, South American fiction as well. And for a TV show, Carnival is a show that ran many years ago that was on, I believe it was HBO. So that's another inspiration as well, and one that I recommend people check out.
I also want to know, I just finished your book and I loved how the carnival interacted in your story. I thought it was really fun to see that. I could see how the HBO show could like have some like in reference for how you pull some of the storylines together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you.
How about Shauna?
Well, I'll give some, I guess, musical inspiration. So Janelle Monáe's entire catalog can take you on a, fantasy journey. And, especially her first two albums, I'm just thinking about, because there are fantasy elements in my story because it is a time travel story. So I, love that aspect of her work. There's also, if I want to recommend a speculative fiction magazine called Violet. So Violet magazine, it comes out quarterly, it's online, and it features stories by Black people from the African diaspora. And you can always find something good in there. Like if you're just, even for people who are writers and you're just kind of stuck and you're not, are in a rut, they're like short punches to your gut, of just like really good imaginative stuff. So I love that.
And last but not least, Sarah.
Yeah, I don't read a lot of fantasy, so I've been trying to rack my brain thinking of something. I can say that while I was writing Where the Rhythm Takes You, I read a lot of Shannon Maguire stuff. Especially, I don't know if you can see this behind me. She wrote a lot of The Small of the Wayward Children, I think that's what we call it. Yeah, that series. I really love her writing. Just her craft, the craft itself, like the words on the page. I think she does a really good job of that. So I remember reading a lot of that. Trying to think of what else I did. I listened to a lot of soca music in terms of, the inspiration there. It's a local type of music that we have in Trinidad and Tobago. It's closely tied to our carnival celebration. It's very uplifting, very joyful.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us today. And sharing your work as well as the content carrying your personal stamps of approval. Can we go around really quickly and just let our audience know where they can find you? Let's start with Veronica.
You can visit my website at veronicahenry.net. On Twitter, I am at Veronica Writes, and on Instagram, The Word Slinger.
I am Shauna Miles. You can find me most times on Twitter at SR Miles Author. I'm also on Instagram at SR Miles Author, and I have a website. You can find me there at shaunamiles.net.
I'm Sarah Das, and you can find me at Sarah Das Author on Twitter, Sarah Das Writes on Instagram, and sarahdas.com.
You can find me on Twitter, Frida Likes Tea, Instagram, Frida Likes Tea, and my website is just my name, fridaabikemide.com.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for having us on.
Thank you for having us.
For having me.
We just heard some amazing recommendations, which reminds me of one of my own. This is actually really funny because, what is this, episode 5? The fact that it hasn't come up yet is truly a feat on my behalf.
I feel like it's probably because it's just like, it's like a given. It's like, do you know us? Like, have you followed
it's
us?
very
like,
obvious. I've tried really hard to like not make it my first rec. And now it's my 5th. So cool. GDB art. If you don't have anything from GDB art, then see, boom. I think I have like on my, well, it's kind of blocked by my pop socket, but I also have on my phone here. Plus you can't see my background like hella on my walls outside. Art is really like fantasy, whimsical, Black girls with like dragons and like in these really cool and like serene places. We featured the creator who does GDB art, Geneva, on our website at Black Girls Create. Probably about a year ago now. I don't know the exact time. It's been a minute. It's been a while now. But yeah, she does amazing stuff, and almost every time she posts on any of her socials, I'm like, yikes, there goes my money. So yeah, so if you go to I believe it's gdbart.store is like her store. And then I want to say it's at GDB art on social media if you're not already following her work and like also buying all of her things. You should do that.
It's real hard, y'all. Like,
It's
I want to act like, you know, like, I am a Sag Cap, so I'm hard, you know? It's hard to part me from my money. You can't get me. Look,
it's every time. It's like
Geneva,
literally, I'm like, it like hits me. I'm like, ooh, hits me straight in the wallet.
Geneva
It's great.
lies on the fault line of like, so you need this. Like, I don't know what, like, is there a question? Like, do you think you don't need it? Like, yeah, you need it. Like, get it. What is the most recent purchase? I think the first thing I got from Geneva was like the calendar, like the 2020 calendar.
Mm-hmm.
I'd known about Geneva like way before that, but I was like, I'm going to get, no, maybe it'd been, no, a 2019 calendar, because went to the New York Comic Con 2019 and she had a booth and I got the desk calendar. And I was like, and then there's also this really cute, it was the same time that there was like this, it was like Black women as breakfast and like, and another one with like astrology, and I'm an astrology girl, and I was just like these are all things I gotta buy this. So I had the little desk calendar, and then in 2020 went to New York Comic Con again. No, 2019 was New York. So no, 2018 was desk calendar. 2019 was the wall calendar for 2020. And 2020 came, and I had this lovely little calendar, and I had bought it from my office. And who wasn't in their office most of the year? Me. Yikes. But who was so happy that she had it and got it signed by the artist? Me. So when I get back to my calendar, when I get back to my office, finally again, I will be flipping through my calendar, but I do not have any regrets, any reservations. I bought another 2021 calendar. Like, I am a forever stan. I have stationery. I just feel it's like a perpetual like money like that's anytime Geneva's putting something out, it's like it's straight up vibes. It's like I don't even know
it's so good. I have like, I don't even know how many prints, countless prints. I have a 2021 wall calendar. I have some stickers. I have at least one notebook, I think, maybe more. And I just bought her latest. She has an art book that I guess by the time this drops will be out. So I was a backer for that, and so I'm gonna get my copy soon, and I'm really excited about it. So it's if you want to go to our website, it's gdbee.store, and then so sorry to you and your money.
But you're supporting a Black creator, so is it really, I
feel like you won't regret it. You might look back, you might be like, oh dang, I did too much, but like it's worth it. You? Yeah, like too much is relative, I feel like, personally. So yeah, what about you, Portia? What's your rec for this episode?
Well, in the name of like Black creators, and like being Black and loving to do different stuff with their hair, I'm always getting braids. It's fun. For this one, I like wanted to go back to doing like blonde, and I'd like bought this hair like a while ago, and then I also had I was like, oh, I want to do some pink under
Yeah, I
because I
noticed
had
that
this
earlier.
hair. And I'm like, oh yeah, like so like while I had my last set of braids in, I was like, okay, I'm getting tired of like always like having like when I have my braids in, I feel like I want to get like refreshed, but I don't feel like if I just like throw some like water on it or whatever, it doesn't always feel like it's like getting like all the stuff that I
Like you're
want.
really like getting in there.
Yeah, and then I also feel like just like I'm like always concerned with like I'm a newly braids girl, like probably in the past 4 years have I really gotten into wearing braids. And so I think one of the reasons why I've always been like conscious about it has been I've seen people whose hairlines have receded, sadly,
Yeah, you have to be really careful
because of their braids.
Yeah.
And I've always been like scared of getting into it. And also just like I have like a scalp that's easily irritated, like in certain places it just gets easily irritated. And so sometimes extensions just aggravate my scalp and it doesn't do well. So those are multiple reasons why it just took me a while to figure out like if I'm gonna get braids, like I do to the braids to condition them for me to like the hair to get it to where my scalp can take it, and then what I have to do to maintain my scalp while I'm wearing them. And so I do my own like oil treatments, and I have other kind of oil treatments that I like to use a lot. But I also recently found out about this company called Sunday to Sunday that has micellar water rinse. And it's a spray. And it is a root refresh, and it's infused with apple cider vinegar. So it's like I'm getting the cleansing effect, and also like I know ACV is good. It's gonna help like scalp like the pH and everything. So I feel like it's kind of like made for, if I believe like how they marketed it, it's like for people who have like active lives and like exercise and fitness. So like if you're sweating and you have protective style in, that's also a thing. Do I be sweating? No. Do I need to be sweating? Yeah. So I'm probably gonna try to get into working out soon, and I feel a bit more confident like knowing that I have the spray to help me kind of like get that refreshing, like not having like sweat build up on my head and like product build up on my head, like kind of like break that down. And then for the edge concerns that I have, there's this thing called Edge Flourish, and it's like a easy, like you just kind of like open close kind of like twist here for your scalp and your edges. And it's supposed to make sure like it's a daily nourishing serum infused with biotin, so it's supposed to like help maintain your edges.
I know like biotin's really good for like hair strength. I need to get some of that because like I get really nervous about my hair is really thick, which is like, and I braid my own hair, and it every time is it's like brand new information like every time.
I want to say like you have
I get to that last little section
true.
and I'm just sitting there like, why am I this way? But obviously like I wouldn't have it any other way, but I do get really nervous about my edges because obviously like they're naturally thinner than the rest of your hair, and also like naturally weaker, so you just have to be like really careful. And I have like not like drastically or like irreversibly messed them up before, but I have done things where later I'm like, oh snap, and then I'm like kind of we make sure it's all good. So I'm trying to do, or am doing better now, but that would definitely seems like something that would be great to integrate into this little situation I got going on.
I definitely am just like, I put it, so I want to say off the bat, look, you're probably going to, I have been, if you're anything like me, you're going to be heavily kind of like considering using the edge control thing all over your scalp because it smells so good. It smells like a nice florally scent. And it's like you're just like ooh, and then you're like going on through the day like I smell nice, and it's like ooh, this edge control stuff is so good. It smells so good.
I love that too, like just like itty like smell good, especially on my hair. Like I remember when I used to go like be out and then like the wind would blow and I could like smell my hair and like, oh, this is great. It smells so good.
That fresh wash day, whenever you just like, ooh, all the products are just hitting right, and you're like,
they're just sitting right up in there. It feels good and you can like smell it because it's new, It's like It's perfect.
Every time I use this edge control, I'm like, ooh, it smells nice. So hopefully I'm not going out of it too quickly. And I do want to disclaim that, one, like, yeah, it's not a paid promotion.
Yeah.
And two, I have only started using it I just got these braids like this week. And I've only been using it for the past couple of days for these braids, right? So over time, I can't give you any like time elapse situation or whatever. But I did buy it because the recommendations on the website were so, like, they seem very real and like enough that I was like intrigued enough to purchase it and use it. So hopefully over time, like maybe I'll do an update like months or something from now and like let people know how like I feel about the products. But so far, so good. Yeah. And that smell, I'm telling you, that edge flourish,
man. Yeah, that's great, because I use castor oil generally, and like I probably still would, like, it's good for your hair, but it does not smell good. I always mix it with like my other stuff because I'm just like, I do not like this.
Every time I hear castor oil, and I know I've used it a couple of times for my hair. I just also, castor oil is kind of sticky, and you're just like, you be feeling like
it's like very thick. There are some that aren't, like there's one brand that I'm blanking on right now. It's like at most beauty supply stores, and it's like pretty. It's like a neutral scent. It's not as thick, and so like if I can find it, then I'll get it, but usually, like, if not, then I'm like, all right, I guess I just gotta get this regular one, and I'm just gonna have to suck it up.
And do try to thin that out,
mix it with mix it with my like moisturizing, like, you know, and like usually like you can cover up the scent, but it's just not,
it's not pleasant, and you're just like, not at all. Not gonna work against it.
You gotta do all extra.
None of that with the Edge Flourish from Sunday to Sunday. Love the smell. Love the feel. It's a nice texture. And I have been tempted. May have put it in a couple of other places that were not my edges because it smells so good. But I didn't. It goes on like very like sheer, and it doesn't like feel like it builds up. And I haven't had like any flakage or anything since. Like I think I've used it for like the past couple of days, and I haven't seen any like after it dries up anything like coming off of it. So I felt really good about it. So I recommend it so far. Again, we'll do updates if there are any updates to have.
Nice.
And that's it for this episode's Rex and Fantasy Rex. Thank you for joining us for this exploration of some 2021 debut fantasy books.
And if you'd like to join us for more great talks with BIPOC fantasy creators, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at BLKGirlsCreate and at Things We Imagine. And we'll see you next time.